"They've issued me a summer uniform, so I imagine I'll be going to the south," he said. It was late on a cold autumn night of 1944 when his wife and young child saw him off at Mizunokuchi Station in Tokyo. Yohji Yamamoto's father, Fumio Yamamoto, never returned. This exact moment set Yohji's life onto a completely different path. The one-year-old boy will not have known, but he will later be called a maestro that changed the world of fashion, but also one of the most enigmatic and mysterious Japanese designers. As a result, his work will be labeled morning clothes, Hiroshima chic. As we mentioned in the previous video, Yohji did not mean this at all. He was just trying to express his own vision of beauty, one that will be formed here starting in this cold autumn night in 1944. Yohji's father left behind a widow and a young child. The Yamamoto family did not come from a wealthy background, and as a result, Yohji's mother, Fumi Yamamoto, had to raise Yohji all by herself as a seamstress, working 16-hour-long shifts every single day in impoverished post-war Japan. The image of her back turned to Yohji, working furiously in front of a sewing machine, would be permanently ingrained into his mind as a child. Yohji's mother owned a small shop in the Kabukicho area of Tokyo. This area has always been the red light district, the seedy underbelly of Tokyo, full of groups of yakuza gangsters and young women selling out their bodies. And as a young child, Yohji has a very vivid memory of encountering one of these girls in a phone booth. She was calling one of her prospective clients while wearing a very short slip dress. Because of this, her butt was on full display to the young Yohji. Yohji was absolutely shocked into fear. Her gluteal muscles were bulging out, caused by the exaggerated high heels she was wearing. There was an uncanny valley-like disgust triggered in young Yohji. As a result, there will be no heels in any Yohji runway. So despite his disadvantaged upbringing, Yohji studied hard, and as a result, he was accepted into the prestigious Keio University to study law. Yohji's mother was absolutely delighted because he had a guaranteed future. He would never have to worry about how to put food on the table. Incidentally, before Rei Kawakubo got into fashion, she was also studying here at Keio University. One can theorize that this is where the two met up. And upon graduating from university, Yohji felt lost. He couldn't imagine working as a cog in a machine anymore. He didn't know what to do, so he went back to his mother and asked if he could help out in her store. And on that day, she stopped talking to Yohji. I mean, what was he thinking? He had a guaranteed future at a prestigious company with a stable salary, and now he wants to work his ass off as a dressmaker? But eventually, Yohji's mother gave in. She told him, "Look, Yohji, if you don't want to be made fun of by the seamstresses working on the floor, you at least need to go to dressmaking school and learn how to cut cloths." So in 1966, Yohji went back to school. He went to the same humble dressmaking school that trained his mother, Bunka Fashion College. And by the way, Bunka only started to accept male students in 1957. Yohji says there were only 100 male students in his school when he was there. It was full of women learning dressmaking to prepare for marriage and domestic life. This was an age when the woman made all the clothes in the family. Yohji says, "I spent my days tediously pinning fabric while pondering the question of what constitutes a proper profession for a man." However, at Bunka, something changed within Yohji. His passion and talent for design was quickly recognized. In 1969, while being a student at Bunka, he applied to and won 2 prestigious design awards, the Endo Prize and the Soen Prize. By the way, Soen is Japan's oldest fashion magazine. And fortunately, we have records of what he submitted to the Soen Prize in '69. It's this jacket and skirt combination. The jacket is made from chinchilla fur and the skirt is made from double georgette fabric. Yohji says that Parisian couturier Pierre Cardin was a big influence. Pierre Cardin is very famous for his space-age motifs, and we can guess that Yohji was inspired by that here. You're probably thinking what I'm thinking. It looks completely different from what he's doing today. What happened next will cause him to do a complete 180. The Soen Prize would sponsor a trip for Yohji to travel to the Mecca of fashion, Paris. So in 1969, 26-year-old Yohji, the promising young star of Japanese fashion, travels to Paris with his sketches in his luggage and hope in his mind. Maybe his talent will be recognized by the French fashion world. So sketches in hand, Yohji knocked on the doors of many French fashion magazines. And he was not taken seriously at all. First, Yohji was an outsider. He was Japanese. Second, the age of haute couture was already coming to an end. Pierre Cardin, Yohji's hero, had introduced ready-to-wear in 1959, 10 years ago, and this would take over the fashion industry. Yohji's custom dressmaking skills from bunka were now outdated. Yohji had come to the place of his dreams, and yet he could not accomplish anything. So with a prestigious law degree and several design awards under his belt, Yohji humbly went back to Japan to assist his mother in her shop, Femme dressmaking shop in Kabukicho. And by the way, this is the late 60s. Ready-to-wear had not expanded to Japan. If you wanted fashion, you had to make it yourself or get a dressmaker to do it for you. Their primary customer was elegant nightlife madams of Kabukicho who were enamored with Paris couture styles and wanted their own copies of them. There was a bit of a problem. Their body shapes often did not fit the ideals proposed by Western designers, which back then was decorative dresses, fancy prints, nipped waists, and exaggerated, voluptuous butts. And they put unreasonable demands on Yohji to make it all work. So they'd come in with a design and show it to Yohji. Yohji would make the dress, put it on them, and they would be like, no, this doesn't look like the picture. So Yohji would have to get on his knees, start pinning, cutting, make it again, and then they'd be like, no, this doesn't look like this still. Yohji got extremely frustrated. He hated doing this work. He did not want to make clothing for the male gaze to objectify women as sexy, pretty dolls. He says, regrettably, I can find nothing sexually attractive about women who take advantage of their sex. If every woman was as pretty as in a magazine, that will be dull. One could imagine that somewhere in the back of Yohji's mind was the image of that streetwalker in a phone booth and her bulging butt muscles. So Yohji started his own company, Wise, in 1972 to dress a different woman. Yohji says, for me, a woman who is absorbed in her work, who does not care about gaining one's favor, strong yet subtle at the same time, is essentially more seductive. The more she hides and abandons her femininity, the more it emerges from the very heart of her existence. For that woman, Yohji gives her the clothing of a man to protect her. It will be all in dark colors and made from heavy-duty fabrics, like wool gabardine. Let's not get things wrong. Yohji wasn't abandoning sexuality. By hiding and covering the woman's body, Yohji is subtly suggesting the body underneath. And it will be seductive because you can't have it. Yohji refers to that woman as a femme fatale. That term originally came from film noir, where a femme fatale or lethal woman is a cunning and witty character who seduces and tricks men to their demise. But Yohji's interpretation is a bit different. He is proposing a woman who refuses the dominance and objectification by men. She is independent and emancipated. According to Yohji, I feel pretty or beauty in a girl or woman when I feel her loneliness or sadness. If a person is deeply educated and her mind is filled with many precious things, she should only wear dark clothes. One can only imagine how revolutionary and different this was in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. According to photographer Nick Knight, who did many of the campaigns for Yohji, his clothes were about a woman's emotions, her intellect, and her thoughts. A woman's beauty and her strength is her mind, not her sexuality. That was new and for me, extremely refreshing. And there have been many femme fatales in Yohji's own life that has inspired him. First, there's Rei Kawakubo, Yohji's former romantic partner. She is absolutely dedicated to her modernist vision of independence and freedom at her work at Comme des Garçons. Then there's Pina Bausch, founder of Tanz Theater Wuppertal. She was dedicated to a revolutionary form of dance and theater that brought out human emotions and fragility. And of course, the last and greatest femme fatale for Yohji Yamamoto, his mother Femme Yamamoto, the back that which Yohji gazed at as she worked 16-hour days in front of a sewing machine. Just like how in film noir there is seduction was an element of danger, Yohji's femme fatale has beauty with a sense of darkness and melancholy. Yohji's femme fatale isn't a sense of cunningness, but someone working at their limit for something greater. It's a femininity of inner strengths, coming from an inner struggle. Now armed with this new, radical sense of beauty, Yohji made his first collection for Wise, the brand that he founded in 1972. It will be all tailoring, suits and trench coats made from heavy wool gabardine for women. And of course, it was a complete flop. Only 2 or 3 buyers showed up at all to his showroom. He barely sold anything at all. He had to stuff his clothing into a trunk and go sell door to door to boutiques. Eventually, one of the veteran buyers in Japan saw his work and told him, Yohji, your time will surely come. As we've talked about in the previous video, Yohji ended up changing the entire world of fashion through his revolutionary idea of beauty. But what about the man? What's the idea behind the other half of Yohji's collections? Stay tuned for the next part of the Yohji series, Whys for Men. That's it, thank you for watching, Mentonym out.